Are you dreaming of moving to Italy? Well, now's your chance. Join my annual Move to Italy Bootcamp happening September 10th, 11th, and 12th. This free 3-day live event is your ticket to planning the ultimate Italian adventure. Every day for just 1 hour, I'm going to guide you through everything that you need to know, from finding your perfect place to live to understanding visas and residency and a whole lot more. You can't make it live? Well, no worries because replays are available, but you must sign up to get access. So whether you're considering a full-time move or just part-time, this bootcamp has helped thousands of people make their Italian dreams a reality. But I only host it once a year, so don't miss out. Sign up at www.smartmoveitaly.com to reserve your spot now and start living your best life.
Sentire Media.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to another episode of A New Life in Italy. I'm your host, Samantha Wilson, and I hope you had an incredible summer. I know I did. After a couple of weeks of Italian Ferragosto, we are back, we are rested and refreshed for another year here at Smart Move Italy. And on today's episode, I'm going to be diving into a topic that I'm sure you have thought about yourself at least once, if not many, many times. Maybe you're a little obsessed, actually. And that is buying a property in Italy and then renovating it. For many, the idea of owning a piece of Italian history, or perhaps it's a rustic farmhouse in Tuscany or a palazzo in Sicily, this usually is the ultimate fantasy. But as with most dreams, the reality can be a little bit more complex. So in this episode, we are going to hear from my friend Marianne. She is a Norwegian and she's living this dream firsthand. You may already be following her and her journey on her Instagram account, Sweet and Pfeiffer. Personally, I'm obsessed. But Marianne and her husband, Alex, who is a musician actually, they live full-time in Oslo, but they've taken on the challenge of buying and renovating a 600 square meter ancient palazzo in a tiny town in Sicily called Palazzolo Accredi. And they're turning it into an Airbnb. She's going to share her journey with us, everything from the buying process, managing renovations from afar, and how her Airbnb is doing. We're also going to talk about her expectations and whether or not they match up with reality. Plus, you're going to learn a little bit more about her other projects and talents, which are really incredible. So if you're ever considering buying a property in Italy and transforming it into your dream home or even an Airbnb business, this episode is for you. I'm Samantha Wilson, Chief Dreammaker at smartmoveitaly.com, and this is A New Life in Italy, a show where each week I take you behind the scenes of what it's really like to move to Italy, introduce you to some fascinating people, answer your questions, and show you how starting a new life in Bel Paese is possible for you. Well, welcome back. Today's episode is about a subject that we get so many questions about. Actually, many foreigners that consider buying a property in Italy have at one time or another thought about doing exactly what our guest has done. And that's finding an old home in Italy that needs some TLC or maybe a lot of TLC and working slowly and passionately, bringing it back to its grandeur. And that's not really an uncommon idea. As a matter of fact, just look at all the hundreds of home makeover and restoration shows that are on TV, and you will know that there are a lot of people with this same dream. And if the draw of an Italian lifestyle and the architecture and living in a small town in Italy is part of your equation, then you will feel like a kid in a candy store in Italy because there are so many properties and opportunities to choose from. But renovating in Italy is not all glam and before and after shots. There is a lot of mess in the middle. And I'm talking about mind-numbing bureaucracy, unreliable contractors, the search for materials, old materials that no longer are available or that match your restoration. And the time, oh my goodness, the time that things take so much longer than you expect. And of course, the money. Now, although you can buy a property relatively cheaply here, renovation costs can easily get out of hand if you're not planned well. Now, these worries plus not speaking Italian is usually what eventually turns foreigners away, and they decide on a move-in ready property. But there's still those out there that are up for the challenge, and maybe that's you. Now, I've had my share of renovation experiences here in Italy, from restoring an ancient farmhouse that was once actually a restaurant, to renovating a tiny little apartment that was just perched up on the hills in Amalfi, where the only way to get to the materials or get them up to the property was to climb 365 steps. Oh my goodness. Sometimes we had a donkey that helped it, but most of the time, everything needed to be carted upstairs. And even though after every renovation, I would say, forget it, never again, I'm finished, I still find myself scrolling through the low-cost properties in the south of Italy and wondering, am I up for another? And it doesn't help when there's these Instagram accounts like Sweet and Pfeiffer out there that are enticing me and drawing me back into the dream. So I thought before I take another step into the Italian restoration abyss, I wanted to talk to Marianne and see how her insanely beautiful Palazzo in Sicily is coming along. But before I jump into the conversation, let me introduce her. She and her husband are from Oslo, Norway, and they fell in love with the charm and the history of Sicily, and they decided to take the plunge, and they bought this palazzo in this beautiful little ancient town. And they've been managing their renovation project part-time, balancing their lives, their work, and other projects in Norway with their Italian dream here in Italy. Marianne isn't just a talented artist and an interior designer, by the way. She is also a very accomplished cookbook author and a baker. And her husband, Alex, is a musician and has just released a new album in June. So these guys are honestly incredibly talented. And I'm so excited to hear about their experiences, the lessons learned, and their plans for the future. Please welcome Marianne to the show. Okay. Well, Marianne, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I have so many questions for you. I think the first thing, though, is maybe introduce yourselves to our listeners.
My name is Marianne, and I'm married to Alex, who is a rapper. I am living in Norway, but I'm also living in Sicily. So I'm juggling two countries, both in my head and logistically, which can be a little tricky because we're in the first year. And we're renovating a 600 square meter palazzo. And I'm showing all of it on social media, on Sweet and Pfeffer, on Instagram and TikTok. And it's quite an adventure.
I have been watching. Actually, I'm a little obsessed with your Instagram, I have to admit, because I think you're doing something that a lot of people want to do or dream about doing. And I mean, it's a combination of you're showing them what you're doing, but also like your design style and your ideas and how you're approaching this renovation is beautiful. I have to say that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
so much.
it's gorgeous. So are you an interior designer? Do you have any training in that?
No, I have a master degree in art. So I guess that could be used in a lot of things. I'm interested in interior, but not at the level as interior architects and influencers, interior influencers. But I see it when I go into a room. I see where the room should go and in what direction and what you can combine. I also feel a great pressure or great responsibility for the house because it's a historic building. There is so much that needs to be protected, to be enhanced, and also the things that had been lost in the history of the house we would like to bring back. So if there's new tiles from the 80s and 90s, we're hunting for antique tiles from the same time period as the house.
Right. And this is not easy. Okay, so let's start from the beginning.
Yes.
What drew you? I know that you're Norwegian. So
Yes.
What drew you to Sicily of all places?
It's a funny story because it wasn't that. It was a bit of coincidence. It was during the pandemic, and we had this map in Europe where you had a color. I don't know if you have that across the sea, but you had a color for the different countries that you could go to. So you had green colors for the countries that you can go to, and then you had orange, and then you had red. Red was stay away, and the borders were locked, and heck no. And this was year number 2. We had vaccines, and Norway was celebrating, we are done. And I was thinking, I'm not so sure. This might take longer. And we were thriving during the pandemic. We were both freelancers. We were home, and the boys enjoyed staying home with us. and they liked being homeschooled. So I thought, this is not that bad. Maybe we can, but why are we here? Why are we in Norway during the winter in this house? We don't have the temperature and the freedom to go outside. We could do this anywhere. And then I checked the map during the summer and I saw that Sicily was green. It was this green island, and as farther south I could come, the warmest we can have it in Europe. And all across the Europe that we can get farther away from Norway. So I suggested for Alex that maybe we should go there for a winter. We should go there for 4 or 5 months. And I had a sleepless nights. I had already found an Airbnb apartment. I had researched food. I had researched Sicily. And we had been to Italy many times, but we never been to Sicily. And when we arrived, it felt like coming home. It was crazy. Even in the middle of during pandemic, we were there just for a couple of weeks and we just like melted in.
Well, in the south during COVID, because I live in Tuscany, so here everything was completely locked down. But in Sicily in the south, luckily, they weren't as badly affected as the center, so they weren't as locked in. And I'm sure the weather was better for you.
Yes,
in the winter,
definitely. And also, because I was driving down, so I took the car down, and the kids were flying with Alex. And while I was driving down, they were closing borders after me. Jim was just able to cross Switzerland, and then they closed the border the next day. So it's like, so the COVID was blooming again, and they closed down Norway, and everybody was just inside. It was exactly the same as the first year, all over again. And we were sitting in Sicily, and we had a green island still, even in the winter, because everybody had been wearing masks. No one really let go that much. They kept up with the distance, they kept up with the mask, but all the cafes were open, all the restaurants were open. You could have a life still.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Italy was good that way for sure.
Yeah.
The rules were, for once, the rules were totally followed.
Yes. It was amazing.
Yeah. Right. So you arrive in the winter of 2019, and then
2020.
2020. Of course. Yeah. COVID. 2020. So then you, what drew you to buy something? What made you think about buying?
It was within the first 2 weeks when we were driving a little bit around and in other cities, because we were living in Catania, and then we drove further south. And you can't ignore all of the for sale signs. In the beginning, we were like, what does this mean? Because we didn't speak Italian. What does this mean? And we Google translated it. And we're like, oh my God, they're for sale. And there were so many. It was shockingly how many properties that were for sale and how much history it was. And in Norway, we don't have that much old architecture, because we were first Danish. We were first Swedish, and then Danish, and then Swedish. So the main capitals were in other countries. So we don't have, although the money were sent out of the country, and we don't have that many castles or big palazzos or anything. So coming to Sicily and seeing all of these historic buildings just standing there. And in Norway, we also have a saying, I don't know if you have this, we say that houses need people. That is devastating when a house is empty, because
it's empty.
Then they dilapidate, or it's
like the soul of the house is gone.
Yeah, the soul of the house, and also it's not kept maintained. If you have a hole in the ceiling, you can't see it. It always takes a few weeks before you notice. You're not there every day, and also it's not heated, it's not lived in, it's maintained. So it's hard to see all the houses being empty. And then I said to Alex, maybe we can look inside some of them, because we were so curious.
Yeah.
And then after a couple of weeks, I was sitting in the kitchen, and I said to Alex, maybe we can ask the bank how much we can get, how much loan we can get. What if we fall in love with a house, and then we will have the devastation that we can't get a mortgage?
Right.
And he gave me this long look over the coffee cup, and he saw where
as they do
we're going. And I said, no, let's buy something small, something practical, but something
okay,
where
perfect.
we can work. So he could have his recording equipments because he's a musician, he's a rapper, and I could have props and everything I need to take pictures of food. And but then I wanted something historic because it's better for pictures and it's amazing light and it's lovely to have some texture to work with. But then we quickly realized that they were building big back in the days in Sicily, very, very big. So it was impossible to find anything that was less than 250 square meters. And then we realized it doesn't cost that much more to buy 600 square meters than 250. So now we have 600
So
square
why not?
meters. So it's a long journey and it's a little bit at a time. It's like every 2 weeks we're like, oh, but maybe this one is like
It's growing and growing and growing. Well, it's hard because I know there's a lot to choose from, like you said down there. But when you find the one that is yours, you kind of feel it. Is that what happened to you?
Yes, absolutely. I filmed Alex when we went inside. First, we went straight to the garage, and the real estate agent was like, "What? What are these guys doing in here?" He was trying to take us upstairs where they're painting ceilings and the historic, beautiful rooms were. But we went straight to the garage, and they're like, oh, and we're so stoked about the garage. This is the most beautiful garage we've ever seen, and that has become the first apartment and the first place that we renovated. And so Alex were already giving me a big thumbs up and a big grin when we were going up the stairs. So I could see on his face that we already fall in love with the house. And that was just from the garage.
So you were in big trouble. You knew it.
And they had also advertised the house as 450 square meters. And
of course.
The viewing never stopped. We were walking and walking, and they're like, now we're going to go down, out and around the whole quarter to get behind in a different street. So we have 5 different addresses on our house in 2 different streets. And I'm like, this never ends. Are you sure this is 450? They're like, no, it's 600, maybe. Or maybe more. We're like,
square
what?
meters.
The stable doesn't count. The garage doesn't count. There was so much that hadn't counted. It just goes
on and on.
Yes.
So what's coming to my mind, because we work in a lot of property, is if you have all of these different addresses on all these different streets, and this house is huge and palatial in an old town.
Yeah.
What was the buying process? What were your problems?
We didn't have that many problems, actually, which is incredible. We had been looking we've been looking at a lot of houses, and we got a vibe from some of them where, like, when we looked at the table and we found a table in the basement of one house, and we said, oh, maybe we can buy this table. And the real estate agent was like, I don't know if I can. There are 10 sellers. They're all cousins, and I don't know if they can agree on whether or not they should keep the table or sell it. And I thought, if you can't agree on the table, how are you going to agree on anything? This will go on forever. Yeah. And our house had been in the same family for 150 years. The family that built it was the family that sold it. So it was just one guy that was selling the house. He was the one that had inherited it.
Oh, that's easy.
That made it very easy. And also we have a very good real estate agent that has now became a friend of ours in the process.
That helps for sure, especially if you didn't speak Italian at the time.
Yes. And she is Swedish, so she understands the Scandinavian cultures. She understands what property market we're coming from. So she was able to explain everything that was different. It's like, now we're going to do like this. And also I liked that it took so long. In Norway, you go on a viewing and you buy the house 3 days later. Everything goes within the week, and then you get the keys maybe 3 weeks later. It goes so fast, and there's so much money.
Time to really think, and a lot more money. So how long did it take you to actually finalize the deal?
We found the house. We went to a viewing in June. We made an offer in August. We had the keys in December.
Oh, that's actually still pretty good for a property that size and that position.
Yeah.
Right. So now you have the keys in hand and you're wandering around this 600 square meter, which for any North Americans listening, that's about 7,500 square feet.
Yeah.
So this is a really big palazzo.
Yeah.
So tell me what you thought about it. So was it livable, habitable at all? Was any part of it livable when you
No,
bought it?
not at all.
No.
It was off-grid.
Okay.
Which is surreal. You see all of these TikToks and all of this social media content where people living off-grid in the forest in a van or in a cabin, and I was living off-grid inside of the center of a of a big city. Like we didn't have water, we didn't have electricity, we were not connected to anything.
So you were staying in it though. So you were actually sleeping in it like
No.
No, I was going to say you weren't living off grid. You could have been.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were able to live quite simply, but we said running water from one tap and one working toilet. Thank you. That would be great. After that, we can live there. Yeah. So we had that in June. We had running water from the bathtub, and so we started. We just cleaned out one room on the second floor where the roof is it's maintained, or it's okay, and none of the balcony doors works. They're all falling apart. So it's just sometimes it's just one glass and then one plank just hanging in there.
Yeah. So when you bought it, did you do anything before you bought it, like speak to an architect about your ideas or have any inspections, or did you just say, you know what, let's just get it because it's us and it's a deal and we can afford this and we have a vision and deal with it later, or were you really well planned?
We were well planned. We had technicians taking a look at it. We're used to getting these reports in Norway. We have always a third party coming in and giving us a report of the state of the house in detail of everything that needs to be done. So we had 2 technicians coming in and giving us an idea of the state of the house, but that goes quickly. If you're in a smaller city and you say to the real estate agent that's on your side, the one that's showing you around, and you say, we'd like to have a technician, they have one phone call and they're there 1 hour later.
There. Yeah. And then the technician said to you, you can, what's good, what's bad, and gave you an idea of generally what the main things are that you'll have to renovate, which I'm sure it's a big job.
Yes. But also that the foundation is good. It's really important. We're next to a volcano. We're in an earthquake area. You do not want to, as soon as you have huge cracks and then maybe you have a wall. We had one building we really wanted in Modica. And we fell in love with it. And we're like, this is amazing. And I had a technician looking at it. And he said, all of the 3 walls are about to tilt out. You have to strengthen everything. You have to run steel poles through the whole building. And that is 250,000 just to make
sure it stays up.
It stays up and stick together. And before you start doing any renovations, forget about water or electricity or anything else. It's just so it doesn't collapse. And if it didn't look that bad.
Yeah, so it's so important, isn't it? Especially, it's tempting sometimes as properties might look and feel and seem, and even the price can be so enticing. There's always something behind it. So, I think what you guys did, and I'm sure you advise people all the time to get inspections as well, just to give you an idea. I mean, maybe you want to do the reinforcement, but you need to know what it is. You have to have clarity before you can.
You can't go in and then you have a budget for 50,000 in the beginning. Let's just use 50,000 just to get water and electricity and then go from there. And then you realize, no, you need 250 before you can even
the walls are falling out.
Have an electrician coming in because it's not safe.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So you bought the house and then you decided to renovate the garage, which I know it is an Airbnb now. I've seen the pictures and it is so beautiful. So tell me about why tell me just briefly about that restoration and, what you're doing with it now.
We had, I think this was one of the smart things that we did, that we didn't start with a whole house. We didn't go full in on everything because we don't know the market. We don't have the context. We're not fluent in Italian yet, where we needed to learn the process as we went. And starting with a small project was very smart. And also then having a place to live, because it's an Airbnb, but it's most and foremost our
somewhere to stay.
It's our house, it's our home in Sicily. So we had an architect, and architects in Norway and Scandinavia and in Sicily work very differently, and we had to get used to that. we're used to them just planning and drawing and drawing houses and
organized.
designing them. But here they are more of like a building site, or it's more an administrative job and dealing with the bureaucracy. So everybody's like, yeah, bureaucracy is terrible. No, not really, because we had someone doing that for us.
You know, it's so important. You have to have the right people helping you. It's the the DIY from start to finish that always end up in the nightmare.
Yes.
Always. And you have to plan for that. You just have to spend the money and plan for it.
Yeah.
It's got to be part of your budget.
So I didn't have to deal with contractors when they were going to show up, at what tempo they're going to work. I had an architect doing all of that.
Excellent.
Both finding the contractors, getting the budgets, and I just had to approve the budgets. And then also we got a very detailed plan of the budget and all the steps that had to be done. And then it was a lot of restoration of the walls and the ceiling that was very pricey. So we just stroked that, and I said, we can do that ourselves, because that is just surface, and it's not any, we're allowed to do that. And then, of course, it took time before they started. It took a long time. I thought they were going to start in February, but they started in May, June, and we were arriving 1st of July with the kids. We needed to have a house to stay.
Yeah. Right. And how long did it take for them to finish it?
It took 6 weeks.
Oh,
isn't that cool?
All
of the stories, or all of the tales, it takes forever. It took 6 weeks. And of course we were continuing for weeks after that, but getting the floors ready, getting all the plumbing done, all the water, plumbing, electricity, everything was connected.
Making it habitable so you could stay.
Yeah.
How many square meters is the garage?
55.
55. Okay.
So now we have 545 left.
Yeah, not much. You're almost there. Yeah. You're so close. You're so close.
So close. Give me one more week and I'm there.
Another 6, maybe 12 weeks. You got it. Yeah. But you know what? But what's so good, you did it such a smart way and a beautifully way. By the way, listeners, if you haven't, I'm going to put in the show notes your Instagram channel so that people can go to it, because when you're talking about doing the ceiling inside the kitchen, sort of the entrance way, I can't even describe what you did to that. I don't want to talk about it. I want to just get people to go there and see it themselves, because it was such a great choice, in my opinion, such a great choice. And the bathroom, all of it. That's all I'm going to say. Everyone, you have to go to Sweet and Piper Instagram. I'll give you the link. It'll be in the show notes. But you've done just such a beautiful job. So what is your plan in the future? I know you may. I mean, do you plan to actually eventually do the entire Palazzo?
Yes. We're going to do the entire Palazzo. We're going to change. The big job is changing the roof. We need a new roof. One part, it's leaking. So water is just running in and coming in around fall and the storms. Yeah. But it's not that. In Norway, where we have wooden houses, we would be so frightened when we saw a hole in the ceiling, and we would just leave immediately because we would know that it was nothing left of the house. But here you just have to flip the house kind of on upside down. The most important is the what is it called? Foundation.
Yeah, the
and
foundation,
the vaults in historic buildings. It has to be sturdy. And if the vaults are beautiful, they're whole, and ours are so amazing. The roof isn't that important, actually.
Because you can. Yeah, it's just the cover.
It's the cover. It's raining on stone. It's fine. Yeah. So most important now is maintaining the 2 painted historic ceilings that we have, the decorated ones, and no water is coming in there. So, but it's vulnerable because it's the old construction where you just have planks, you just have beams, and then you have stones on top. You have no protection. So if you have a shift in a stone, then you have a leakage, but you don't know until it's gone through the bamboo ceiling and the painted and the decorated ceiling. So you need to have in the long run, we need to have a better roof. So roofs and also balcony doors, and replace those are also very pricey, and doing all plumbing, all electricity, and also restoring surfaces. So, but we don't have a time schedule.
Well, this takes the pressure away too.
Yes.
And, and also I think another thing that you're so smart at doing this when I'm listening to you, because I talk to a lot of people who do these kind of things. And I've had lots of renovations as well. And one of the things you just said that is so key for people to think about is that, you can only come to any job or any project you do, regardless if it's a house or anything else, with the tools that you already know and the knowledge, the skills and the tools that you already have.
Yeah.
And what I find that a lot of, our audience that lives in North America, what they do, they come here for the renovation and they still have their North American head on. And like you said, with Norway, you're thinking wooden house, how are things built? How does the architect do their job? And trying to fit that into the Italian way and the materials and all of it. And it's entirely different. And this is one of the reasons why I always push, you have to get somebody to help you that understands that this is different. Although you're renovating is renovating and restoring, but materials are so very different. The build is so very different. And the important parts of the house in Italy, compared to your home country are so different. You really nailed that.
Thank you. And also when you get the experts, you need to listen to them.
Please say that again. I can't tell you.
Because
I'm going to use that as a sound bite.
Yeah. Because I can see some conflicts between architects and foreigners that they like, but it's not like that here. It's not like that in our country. Yeah. Or no, I know better. Or I have renovated. You can have renovated 10 historic buildings in your country, and you're starting from scratch when you're arriving to Sicily or in Italy. And I think that is the exciting part as well. I love the bureaucracy. I really, really like it because also I'm getting help, but I'm having a guide when I'm going through and we're going into these small offices and they have this archives that looks like they're from the 50s. And I'm thinking
it's
like,
amazing.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, oh, amazing. They kept the decor from the 50s.
Oh, I know those tabulades, those huge books. Yeah,
books. And then they're taking my record and my paper, and then they go and pick up a book from the back and putting it in. I'm like, oh, it's what? They still use it? I feel so naive when I'm going into it. And the architect also find it very funny to walk around with me in this system. It's like, yeah.
It's normal for them. But, the attitude works perfect because if you approach it like every single thing is new and you're learning, it becomes quite fun. I mean, I'm sure you were frustrated. I'm sure there's been times that were really frustrating too, your expectations, what maybe, I don't know, maybe not. Has it all been fun, or has there been any times that, you just thought, oh, what have we done?
There was one. We are kind of broke because of one situation, of course, and we learn a lot from that. But we had to register the garage from a garage to an apartment before we can rent out on Airbnb, and we need to have some money flow come in to keep up with the next renovation, and that was supposed to take 3 months. It took 9. And that is 6 months where you expect an income that doesn't arrive.
Ouch.
So that was frustrating. But then I also learned from that. So in the beginning, we worked with an architect that was not local. I wanted to work with a woman and, feminist and stuff. And
sure.
she was located in a city that was 4 hours away. So she didn't have the right contacts. And to get the bureaucracy going, you need to have contacts.
Yeah,
and
that's who you know.
That's why it's smart to work with a local architect. That's the best is the same city, and also the best if they have been living there for generations, and all of them, everybody in the city knows that family and everybody trusts them.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes it's smooth.
Have somebody in the offices. It does make it. And in Sicily and in everywhere here in Italy, every single place is exactly the same. That's a really good tip. Yeah, that's really good.
And bureaucracy is hell anywhere. It's like building a house in Norway as well. Norway is supposed to be super efficient. Everything is digital. We only sign one place in a paper. We're not signing 150 papers. It's a whole nother system, but it takes forever and we don't understand it. It's the same. Building houses are complicated and there's a lot of bureaucracy around it, and you have to go in with an open mind and also think, I do not know anything. If you just think that, I do not know anything, surrender. And also, why is it like this? I don't say that. They're like, you have to pay 150 euros here to do this. absolutely, here's my card. It's like,
Just do it.
just get it going. And if you need to have a health inspection to connect the sewer to the house, why? I just like, okay, that sounds
Just
weird,
do it.
but let's go with the flow.
Yeah. And if you've hired somebody that you trust that's leading you that way,
Yeah.
then you just have to follow them.
Yeah.
It's the only way to get it done the right way and get it done, and keep your mind intact.
Yes.
at the end of the day. So you have an Airbnb. I want to talk a bit about that because now tell me about the town that it's in and how it's going.
It's in a small town called Palazzolo Accredi. That is in Val del Noto area. That's the same area as Siracusa, Noto,
just south of
Modica,
Siracusa.
Ragusa. And
Beautiful.
because whole of that area was taken by a huge earthquake during the Spanish period, the Spaniards have built up all of those cities in late Baroque style. So all of them are UNESCO cities. So I'm surrounded
gorgeous.
by gorgeous UNESCO cities, and our city is also a UNESCO city. But it's the least famous one, I
Yes,
guess.
I know. I know of this town because I have looked at properties in that town.
Yeah.
Because
That's
they've
so
got
cool.
some great options there. Like
Yes.
there's some really beautiful,
Yes.
really outstanding and incredible prices.
Yes. And the city is alive. You have, we were looking for a city that was calm, that was clean, and that had a good infrastructure. And it was also alive during the winter. We had been there during the winter, during the pandemic, and we knew the differences. And we wanted also something historic. And then you easily have to go into the island and not by the coast. Most of the coast cities are new, and all of the old ones were further into the island. And it's a bit lower temperature during summer. We have 5 degrees lower than in the coast. We don't have the humidity, so it's more.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, it's amazing. So there's a lot of locals that are coming to Palazzolo, and there's mostly Sicilians hanging out in Palazzolo. That also means that the restaurants are epic. There's not one restaurant made for tourism.
I love that. Epic.
Yes. And also Sicily have awarded Palazzolo for being the best restaurant city in Sicily.
Really? Oh, no, now you've tweaked my interest a little bit more.
And the prices are amazing. And also the amount of religious festivals are bonkers.
Oh, yeah, they know how to party in Sicily for sure. There's always a reason.
And they were firing off cannons at 7 a.m. I'm like, what the heck? I was like, what now? And also I've been trying to figure out, is there an official calendar? Where can I find all of these festivals? When are they? And all those, everyone that has been boarding Palazzolo, they're like, no, we just know. There's rules. And we're like, but what's the rules? Well, the 4th Sunday after this and that, then there's San Sebastiano. The 6th day after this and that, then there's San Paolo. I was like, what? Can someone write it down, please, so I can communicate this to the rest of the world? Because this is made for Sicilians and for Palazzolo, and it's not perceived as, it's not made for tourism.
Yeah.
So
it's very authentic.
Very authentic and very
Nice.
and huge. It's insane. And in Scandinavia, we're having this Christianity that's very somber.
Oh, yeah.
Very simple churches. And it's going back in history to the time where you're not supposed to have a good time, basically. Like,
And then you go to Sicily.
Yes. And then I go to Sicily and everything is just like, boom, it's a party. And there's colors, there's music. We're like running through the streets. I'm like, wow. Even Easter, where it's usually quite heavy time period. It's like, no, in Modica, they have Maria coming out from one church, the sculpture of Maria, and then you have Jesus coming out from another church. And then they search for each other through the day. And at the end, they run towards each other because they're going to kiss. I love it.
Oh, I love Sicily. You make me want to go back right now. You really do. I'm going to be looking on on Volatea airline right now. When am I getting down to Sicily? Oh, it's so great. So the Airbnb, so you run it as an Airbnb, the garage is last thing. And people can, you know what? I'm going to put the link because it's very, very pretty. So I'm going to put the link also in the show notes so people can take a look at that and hopefully visit and stay with you.
And also the calendar is always almost either booked out or it's closed because we're just opening up a few weeks at a time when we know when we're going to be there or not. So the whole spring looks like it's fully booked, but it's just closed off. And also Christmas. So if someone is really eager, they can also send me a message and we can see if we can open it.
Okay, wonderful. Oh, great. Okay, I just want to say one more thing, just because I think people need to know that on your Instagram, I'm going to put a link inside, again, the show notes, because you also have a new, and I know I don't know how old it is, but you have a new, like a store, a web store.
It's very new.
I know, and I love it. It's very cool. So there's not a lot in there, but what you have in there is really great. You have 2 cookbooks, because what people don't know is you are a cookbook author too, right?
Yes, I am.
I know, you just do
with
so
my own
many
publishing
things.
house.
Yeah, my goodness. So your one Brava, which is celebrating Sicilian desserts and sweet drinks, right?
But it's published in Norwegian and also Italian.
Oh, okay.
So what?
So it's not in English.
We can't read. Sicilians can't read about their own cakes in my book.
But it's not in English? It's not in English either? No. Oh, no. What about the Tada? What about your Tada one?
Also in English is hopeless.
So all the Norwegians listening out there, here's 2 really great books.
Yes.
They look very pretty. If you like the pictures, because you're a food stylist, so it looks really gorgeous as well. So there's your 2 books, and then you've got some prints and things in there that I think there's probably stories behind those.
I'm going to, the first 5 prints, they're lino prints, and they are illustrations for the Brava book. So even though you can't read the Brava book, you can buy the illustrations, and they're hand printed. And then there's 3 huge posters that's from our hunting for the houses, or for our house. It was several months we're hunting, and we're going into these abandoned houses, and the 1,000 square meter house that was almost going off a cliff. That was also, we learned a lot from going on viewings and looking at all the different houses and getting a feel of the cities, the area, and realizing what kind of property we were looking for. We were very open-minded when we started. Would we like to be in the countryside? And also rented an Airbnb on the countryside, me alone, so I could feel how it is to be in the countryside in pitch dark. And you can hear dogs in the background, and you're like, do I feel... I'm scared of the dark, so that was not for me.
So that's off the list. Yeah.
But that's an experience. So you don't buy a property and figure out, oh no, I am crippling afraid of the dark.
Yeah, I'm not going ever.
And also not having internet, and not having you don't even have a cell phone.
You're really out there. You're really in the middle of nowhere.
A lot of the countryside properties in Sicily has that. And if you're a freelancer, you have an amazing option to work in Sicily and to go back and forth like we're doing. But you have to have internet.
You have to pick.
Yes.
Yeah. What you see online is there's a lot more behind every single story, and every single home, and every single location. So you're right. I mean, take some time and really learn it, because it's a big purchase, not just, money and time, but really emotional investment. And you want, you don't want to overthink it. You don't want to be paralyzed by overanalyzing or analyzing everything. But, you need to also approach it I honestly, I think everybody should approach it the way you have. You've got just such an open mind about it, and you're real, and you pick the experts to help you. And you can tell by the way you tell your story that that's all paid off, and it's going to continue to pay off for you. And
I think so.
This amazing palazzo.
Thank you.
To run around in 600 square meters.
You can really go for a stroll. You could. And someone is running when we're getting deliver something to the house, and they're a bit annoyed because it takes forever for us to arrive to the door. I'm like, honey, I have a lot. I've been running. It takes forever to reach the main door. So I need a second.
Get a skateboard.
I'm just like running. And also that was the first word that I learned in Italian when we arrived during the pandemic. Everybody's like, sì, aspetta. It's like
just wait. Yeah.
I came in with my energy, with my tempo, and they're like, chill, lady. Yes.
Piano.
And also we had a neighbor stopping me, and we had this long confusing, because I know construction language. I know how to speak Italian in construction, but not small talk.
So you hang around with the guys. You hang around with the men in the bar.
Yes. The architect is joking that I'm going to learn Sicilian before I learn Italian, because a lot of the contractors also speak Sicilian. Yeah. And she was like, you're not in Milan. I was like, I'm aware we're in Sicily. I was thinking, and like, here it's piano, piano. Like,
Yes,
you're
yes.
working too much. You're running around. You're moving too fast. You have to move slower, renovate slower, do everything
It's
you're doing,
hard.
but slower.
Oh,
And
it's so hard.
and embracing that. And I think that is our main love for Sicily is the tempo. And then you can't come to Sicily and they're like, oh, it's this beautiful vibe and everything's so calm and everybody's so kind and lovely. And then you get frustrated with that tempo when you're renovating. You're in a different country. You're on an island, and it's not that the contractors are showing up 10 minutes late because they're lazy. It's not because the construction isn't going super slow because they don't want to. They are working in Sicily too, so they have deliveries, and then their deliveries might be late because they're on an island.
Yeah.
Things takes time,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
if you have like a 2 minutes delay, a little bit, tiny delay through the whole system, then you end up
It becomes long.
a
It
couple of
becomes a
weeks
long
at the
one.
end of the whole motion of the whole process.
Managing expectations is so
Yeah.
important.
And then also everybody having a time for a cup of coffee. You can see like they're about
course.
to run to a meeting and they're saying, "Hey, would you like coffee?" Yes, and then you're
this
taking
is
the coffee
priority.
for
This is
3 minutes. And you don't
Yeah.
do that in Scandinavia. You just run to that meeting and no one is talking to each other because we have this weird way of being polite by not talking. Everybody's just giving each other space to such a degree that everybody becomes a little lonely is like pushing it too far. So coming to Sicily and everybody having like time to have a talk and conversation, and when you're stuttering with your awful Italian and you're standing there with your Google Translate and you're trying to buy building supplies or anything, they're like, "Oh, look at you, you're trying so well, like good for you,
So
thank
patient.
you." So patient.
patient.
They have they have 2 hours to listen to me trying to communicate whatever I'm trying to communicate is.
Yeah, it's easy. You lose patience with yourself before they lose patience with you. Isn't that the truth?
I've lost patience.
You're like, I'm so fed up with myself. I'm out of here. Yeah. I can't even talk to myself.
I can't stand my own self.
I hate myself.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Because I want to be fluent in Italian yesterday. I have no patience. I'm like, this is the most frustrating with being in Sicily, that I'm too slow learning Italian. And I'm like, I'm so bad with languages. And people are like, aren't you talking a second language now? Because
well, you're talking English, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Norwegian is my mother tongue.
Right.
But I'm
so
like,
you're not.
But I'm like, no, I want to be fluent now.
But even with that, piano.
See,
even with that, all of it, Oh, it has been so much fun talking to you. I love your story. This is so great. So, I don't know what to say. I just loved it. I'm going to, like I say, everybody who's listening, lots of links are in the show notes. Please check out the Instagram page, because you will you'll just fall down that rabbit hole. I'm sure you will. It's so good.
I'm going to post about this house for 10 years. It's going to be so many stories.
I know it's going to
be it's like, oh no, is it over? People said it when we were done with the garage. I'm like, no. No, we barely started.
Started. Yeah.
Just lean back. It will, more will come.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I can't wait to see it all. And thank you again. So nice to chat with you. And, you have a good day and good night. And I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Wow. Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. It is so much fun to talk about Marianne's experience, and really what strikes me, as I said many times in the podcast, is her attitude and her approach towards the whole process. Because buying and renovating property in Italy can absolutely be a challenge, but it can also be super, super rewarding, not just financially, but also really, mentally, and, learning the things that you learn, like she says, going into the little offices and having to deal with all of the bureaucracy for her is kind of fun. And the only reason that's fun is because she has the mindset for it. And so for those of you who are listening and who are considering a similar adventure, remember that although the road, might be a little bit winding, the destination can really be incredibly fulfilling. And whether you're drawn to the history and the lifestyle, or simply just the beauty of Italy, taking the leap to buy and renovate in Italy can lead to something truly special. Now, I've also included the links for Sweet and Pfeiffer Instagram account and also her web store and even her books there, if you speak Norwegian, in the show notes. So make sure to follow her for more of her inspiration because I can't wait to hear the rest of her story. And of course, if you're thinking of buying in Italy, don't forget about our buyer's agency, Smart Move Italy Property, because we can help you with all of the process of buying and renovating anywhere in Italy. It's time for listener questions. Just like the old radio call-in shows, my team has picked 3 listener questions, all left on our voicemail. I have no idea what these questions are, but I haven't been stumped yet. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Hello, Johnny here. I am completely ready to apply for my Italian citizenship. How long will it take for it to get recognized? Thank you, and I look forward to your response, Sam.
So the question of how long it's going to take to get your Italian citizenship is sort of a big one, because this really depends on how you're going to be applying, whether you're applying at a consulate in the jurisdiction that you live, whether you're going to court, or whether you're coming directly here to Italy. So I'll give you just a few ranges to think about. If you're applying at a consulate, the worst part really is getting an appointment. And a lot of consulates can take many years before you can even get your initial appointment. And then after that, you could end up getting homework that you have to complete. And then again, the decision-making time. So often nowadays, applying at a consulate, if you don't have an appointment yet, can take between 5 to 10 years. Sometimes it's a super long time. If you're going to court, usually if your application's already ready, then you can be looking at about 1.5 years to 2 years. So definitely faster. But remember, going to court, there's some rules behind that. And then, of course, applying directly in Italy is your fastest route. It is your most strict route, meaning there can't be really anything wrong with your application at all. No names, no problems with spelling, all of that stuff. But that, if you can apply directly in Italy by moving to Italy, depending on where you apply, it could be as early as or as quick as 4 months.
Hi, Sam. My name's Mary. I want to buy a property in Italy, but I'm not sure how much the deposit will be. And do we have to pay cash?
Well, congratulations on deciding to buy a property in Italy. I wonder if you're going to do a renovation property like the one that we just talked about. In any case, what is the deposit? So when you buy a property here, when you make the initial proposal, then you will offer a deposit on that proposal that's usually held in trust until the conditions are removed from the sale or from the offer. And that's usually quite small. Maybe it's 5 or 10% of the purchase price. Usually when those conditions are removed and the deal is pretty much solid, not to the time where you actually transfer the deed, but that, it's a binding contract. Often that deposit could be released to the owner, but this is something you can speak to your agent about. But think about having about 5 to 10% down before closing date of the purchase price. And whether or not you have to pay cash, yes. If you're a foreigner, this is the best way to buy in Italy, simply because you can't usually get a foreign mortgage here. So you should always pay cash to be able to negotiate the best price and to have owners that really want to work with you, knowing that you'll be able to buy the property. So if you have to borrow money, look at borrowing it in your home country first so that you can pay cash directly here in Italy.
Hi, Samantha. I'm thinking of moving to Italy, but don't know how much it costs. Do you have an estimate on how much I should budget?
So how much money do you need to move to Italy? So I'm not sure if you mean move, like how much it'll cost you to pack up and actually ship your things and move here, and all of the things you have to think about when you arrive, like buying a house or your rental deposits and your visas and all of those things. Or if you mean living here. So I'm actually just going to take it exactly as you asked me the question, what it costs to move here. So the things you have to think about are where you're going to live. So there's going to be costs to that, whether you're buying a house or renting. If you're renting, you should look at about 3 months for a deposit, as well as another month for your rental commissions. You have currency exchange to consider. You have purchase price taxes to consider if you're going to buy a property. You should think about whether or not you want to physically move your furniture here with shipping. So those things you have to get a budget for, or get a quote on whether or not it's even really worth it. Most people like to sell everything and buy fresh when they get here to Italy. And then again, like I said, currency exchange, which you can do there's another podcast episode on Rachel Canales. She talks about how to save money when you're exchanging some currency. And, and then other little incidentals like your visa fees, if you have a visa, photocopying your passport fees, these kinds of things, service provider fees. Obviously, you probably want to hire somebody to help you do something or some part, some element of whatever you're doing. All of those fees, you should start to put a line item down and then go out and get some quotes so you can have a good budget of what it's going to cost you to actually physically make that move to Italy. You also probably need some healthcare. I just thought about that as well. But there's a whole bunch of things you have to think about when you're considering moving so you can put it into your budget and so there's no surprises along the way. Well, that's all for this week's episode. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about visas, citizenship, property, and really anything about moving to Italy that you would like me to answer in an upcoming episode, please feel free to send us a voicemail at our website at smartmoveitaly.com/podcast, or just click on the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening, and remember, you can find all of the resources and the links to the people and the places that I mentioned in this episode inside the show notes. Ciao for now. A New Life in Italy podcast is a production of Sentire Media, created and hosted by me, Samantha Wilson. Production by London Nero, and with special thanks to Ali Frothingham, Sofia Pisana, and the entire team at Sentire. Follow A New Life in Italy wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, if you're thinking of moving to Italy, whether full-time, part-time, or for a lifetime, come and see me over at smartmoveitaly.com and we'll help you get here and start living your best life. And don't forget, if you love this episode, please rate and leave a review. It's much appreciated. I can't wait to meet up with you again next week, same time, same place. Ciao for now. Hey, podcast producers and show hosts. Do you want to join a podcast network that celebrates all things Italian? At Sentire Media, we understand the allure of Italy and its unique culture. Our devoted team of hosts and producers are all driven by their shared passion for Italy. And we work tirelessly to create the best lifestyle podcasts and content that will whisk you away to the very heart of Italy. With us, you can savor the mouth-watering flavors, get lost in the stories from the past, break down the cultural barriers, and truly immerse yourself in the vibrant traditions of this intoxicating country. If you have a great podcast idea or are already in production and would like to join Sentire Media, head over to sentiremedia.com, that's SENTIRE media.com, and find out how to submit your show.